Hi, Misha here, and again, welcome to the new channel that I'm still trying to kind of figure out things with. Last time on the new videos here, we're doing quite a few reposting and maybe higher resolution version of old classic videos. Last time we looked at my favorite 5.56 AK available on the market. That question comes up in almost every live stream I ask. Another one that comes up quite frequently: which should I get, or which is better? The Serbian Zastava ZPAP M70 or the Polish WBP Fox/Jack. Both are chambered for 7.62 by 39, and the rod strokes are the same, but the devil's in the details. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no clear answer because it is subjective. But first, if we could, I guess, like, share, and subscribe, because trying to get this new channel off the ground to see how the algorithm picks it up, I'm kind of curious. But also, let's look at the former reigning champion, hailing from, well, Romania, from really any of the versions you want to pick, say from 99 through 2019, give or take. It was the gun to get if you were on a budget, or even if you weren't, and you just wanted a bog standard AKM. And why it maybe no longer holds the title. I speak, of course, about the Romanian Cugir WASR10. Yeah, this was the name of the game. It was affordable. This is really the gun that replaced the Chinese. In the 90s, before it, the Mac 90 was the standard gun. Maybe the lesser extent to the Mod E, but mainly the Mac 90. But this thing just took off, especially after the ban. And several of the videos I'll be reposting on this channel look at a lot of the variations, because at one time there were a ton of variations. And quality control has been high, low, in between over the years. And for a minute there, in 2014, 2018, it was on a high mark again. But then, COVID hit, and Century Arms across the board raised their prices. Now, everything's gone up. But I just looked, and a standard WASR is around $850. I don't know if they have bayonet lugs. It seems intermittent. A lot of the newer ones I've seen don't know. Mine here is from a few years back. This is just kind of a shooter tester gun that I've kept around. I've got it set up in a PM90 configuration, but a regular stock fits it. And the reason this was a good recommend, aside from the money, and aside from the fact that it was in the standard 7.62-9 caliber, aside from the fact that it took standard mags, it was just a standard AKM parts. Standard AKM top covers, bolt groups, trigger groups, furniture, all 4 pieces. Had a standard 1mm thick receiver. Had a standard 16 1/4 cold hammer forged chrome line barrel. I believe it's a 1 in 10 twist. Standard 14mm threads. Standard bayonet lug, although again, not always there. And originally it came with a cleaning rod. So really seems about the same. And over the years, some of these would have a mix of salt blue and phosphate finish. Newer ones seem to just have kind of a matte phosphate finish, what have you. Now, I want to be fair here. The WASR has had some QC issues in the last couple of years, but every manufacturer has. And most of them have been fixable. For example, when they convert these in America, they have to pop the mag catch out and re-rivet it after they cut the... Sometimes the riveting's not done right, and the pin will walk out. A couple of people have reported the shepherd's crook that holds in the trigger group isn't proper, and things walk out. Both of them very easily fixed. There have been some more egregious issues, but let's be honest, tens of thousands of these come in. Just by the law of averages and numbers, you're just going to see more oopsies. So I'm not going to do that. Again, the finish on them, it's scuffed and scratched, but it has a charm. But WBP became a big challenger a few years back. And originally we had the Fox that had the barrel over the top rail. Then the Jack came out with the side rail and a standard rear trunnion. And I just looked, like I said, this is about $850. A gun like this with the FB Ratum 16 and a quarter cold hammer forged chrome lined barrel, 14 mil threads, although I've got a flash hider on it, bayonet lug. This version right now is on sale for $1,000, and I believe retail is about $1,050. So about $200 more. That sounds like a lot, but when you actually do the numbers, you're really looking at less than 25% markup. For that, I really do feel like the Polish is the better buy. Let me try to explain why. Oh, and just to point it out, there is a cheaper version of the WBP Jack that just came out, the slab side, no side rail, and it has a non-chrome barrel, and they're like $950, so they're only $100 more than the WASR. Just thought I'd mention that. Okay, the finish on the WBPs. It's a nice, even black paint with a polished bolt carrier. This is a very smooth bolt and a very nice trigger. The Century trigger is acceptable, and the finish is military grade. So, Polish gun just has nicer fit and finish to the metal, smoother bolt, nicer feeling trigger, what have you. And that continues on with the furniture. The Polish laminate is just nice. Handguards and buttstock. I love the Polish. Century's wood, you're going to replace it. I'm going to be honest. I mean, is it serviceable? Short term, sure. It's just not very attractive looking, feeling. Most people that buy a WASR replace the furniture. Once upon a time, WASRs came with original military furniture, but that's very intermittent to even rare these days. So right there, you're going to chalk up $50 to $100 for a new furniture set right off the bat, which almost just destroys our cost offset, in my opinion. Something else that may or may not matter to people, magwell dimples. This is a quite standard magwell dimple for an AKM, and the WASR doesn't have it. It's a slab side. They've always done that. The last ones that had them en masse were the SAR ones. This is really an artifact of them coming into single stacks and being cut out here. No, it does not make mags fit looser. There's internal plates. It really is just a cosmetic thing. Both do have the XY stamps. Kind of neat. Correct type receivers. Yeah, no magwell dimples. Again, if this were significantly cheaper, who the hell cares? But since they're so close in pricing, especially if you need to swap the furniture out, why would you not rather have the Polish receiver? And like I said, anyone can have problems, FB and WBP included. But when it comes time for warranty work, I'm definitely going to trust WBP/AOA/Atlantic Firearms over Century. Century's warranty is infamous. The 1-year warranty that starts, the clock starts the day it gets shipped out. So, yeah. I mean, that's okay if you shoot your guns a lot. It was really designed for surplus guns that was their bread and butter. So you get a better warranty with the Polish. That, to me, as much as people talk about the Palmetto State Arms and their customer service is a positive, we have to kind of give the same acknowledgement there then. I just don't see where the WASR beats it. It's not that the WASR is bad, but with its rising cost, it doesn't really do anything better than the Polish. They're both bog standard AKMs. The only place the Polish isn't a true AKM is it has a smooth top cover, but this is actually a heavier duty top cover. So are you really going to complain about a more durable part? Both have the same type of barrel profile. Weight-wise, they're essentially the same, give or take furniture on them. Both have forged bolts, forged trunnions. No worries there. And like a lot of modern guns, some hardware could be made from castings, but Russia started doing that in 1970, so no harm, no foul. I just can't recommend a WASR10. Again, if you get one or find a good deal on one, like a Black Friday special, knock it out. You'll have a good time with it. It's just over the years, better options have kind of come onto the market. And I'm going to say this. If money is really an object, instead of the WASR, I'd get a Pioneer. The Pioneer, the PAC, AKM, is cheaper than the WASR. Certainly cheaper than the other Polish. So if you're on a budget, I'd save $100, get a Pioneer, and put that money towards ammo, training, and optic, what have you. Hey, I'm a big enough person to admit that third try, they seem like they got it right. Now, if you've got the money, I still think the WBP is superior to the Pioneer. But again, you're talking about like $300 difference. So with that, our second candidate tonight, the Zastava, the PAP, ZPAP. I own an underfolder. I do have my old OPAP, of course, but you've seen my OPAP so many times, and I wanted to represent more or less a current version. So aside from the underfolding stock and the slightly relocated rail, the standard ZPAP looks this way too. Now this is a little bit of a more difficult comparison. And price-wise, I've seen them trade places, but roughly speaking, they're within spitting distance of each other, kind of depending on which exact furniture style and, on sale or not. And both are true imports. Serbia, former Yugoslavia, Zastava factory. Yes, this is made at WBP, which is technically a commercial factory in Poland, but they do well, and they are using military barrels and other components. So yeah. So this is where being subjective comes in. The Polish has a nice paint finish, and the Zastava has a military kind of matte blue finish. Both have the bolt kind of in the shiny. They're not just pure white untreated. They're treated, but yeah, call it in the white. Both have a 16-inch barrel and 16 1/4. Both have bayonet lugs now. They finally introduced those to the Zastava. That was an edge the WBP used to have over it. Both have 14mm threads. Both have cold hammer forged barrels. The WBP's was chrome lined. The Zastava relatively recently got chrome lining. Before that, they were non-chromed. Yes, hammer forged, but not chromed. One thing I should also mention, the barrel is a little bit heavier. It's more AK Type 3 spec, especially under the handguard, versus just being AKM. So a little bit heavier, a little more weight to it. Unlike the current WASRs, they both come with cleaning rods too, huzzah. You'll also notice that the sling swivel is out front here versus here. And the handguards are longer on the Zastava than the Polish. The receiver, of course, up here is a 1mm, and this is a 1.5, and it has the thicker bulged trunnion. So it's a heavier barrel, heavier trunnion, heavier receiver. There's no XY stamps because of the heavier stamping. That's correct even for a select fire gun. So heavy is good in terms of durability, but of course it does add considerable weight. And it's just how weight sensitive you are. And I have to point out, again, this isn't the part of the AK that fails. There have been very, 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 very few cases where a gun fails and it would not have if it had a little bit thicker receiver. I get why people like them. I do too. But, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Both have the thicker, heavier top cover. This has a traditional AKM takedown. This has the kind of retention spring back here to hold the latch closed. Flipping these over, Yes, the Zastava is decidedly heavier. Not grossly so, but you notice it. Is it maybe more durable? Yeah, probably. But, the deal is, this is an AKM semi-automatic. This is not an AKM or an AK Type 3, AK-47, whatever you want to call it. This is an M70. It's its own critter. For an M70 clone, specifically an M70 AB3, it's great. It's a dead ringer. The problem is, kind of like we talked about with the WASR, the WBP and WASR both share the common fact that they take standard parts, as standard can be. Zastavas don't. They take Zastava pattern, Yugoslavian pattern, Serbian pattern parts, namely like this longer handguard, thicker barrel means different hardware. It is the same muzzle device, same bayonet for what it's worth. The buttstock would be different if it was a fixed stock. Top cover's different. Pistol grip's different, but they're mostly interchangeable. Mags are the same. Yeah. Now, this used to be more of an issue than it is today. When the PAP started coming out, the PAPs, it was kind of hard to find replacement parts or like custom US parts like quad rails and all that for these. But because Zastavas have been so successful here, more and more third-party manufacturers, not to mention Zastava USA themselves, have started supplying parts, upgrades, and accessories for these. So it's not near as difficult or expensive to customize one of these today compared to 10 years ago. However, it is still more so compared with a Fox/Jack or even a WASR. So it's kind of down to what you want. Do you really want a standard AKM or do you want an M70? Both have a long history. Both have a proven track record. Up to you. I will say that Zastava's fit and finish and quality control is superior to Romania's, and definitely superior, especially the quality of like their parts, like the selector, to Pioneer. I feel like, and this is very subjective, I feel like WBPs, and for that matter FB Radums in Poland, their QC, attention to detail, is slightly better than Zastava's. I feel like the Polish guns are just ever so slightly a higher quality gun. But that's not to knock these. I mean, this is my gun, so that tells you where I'm at. But I'm just trying to be fair. But again, they're better than, I definitely like, than the Modis. I would say Zastava's quality is at least as good as Chinese, and I've seen some Chinese guns that had some pretty higgledy-piggledy QC, especially towards the end, like 93, 94. Zastava, on the other hand, has tightened up their QC. Back when Century was doing them, because Century was holding them to a very low price point and a very strict time schedule, I don't feel like they put as much love into them. I feel like Zastava USA today has really tightened things up. Now, that has raised the price, but what hasn't? I'm fine with that. I'd rather buy once, cry once. That's me. Because I'm putting money into a gun. I'd rather put $1,000 into a gun that's not going to give me trouble for a decade, compared with $800 into a gun that may or may not need warranty repair work or some parts replaced to bring it to its utmost. That's just me. I like buying things that I know will be there. And typically when you buy good guns with good reputations like these, if you ever do need to sell them, it's easier to do and you'll get more money back out. You probably won't get as much as you put in buying new versus selling used. But with so many WASRs out there, I have to think a WBP or a Zastava would hold value slightly more, especially considering both have very good reputations this day and age. Let's bring the WASR back out for a pros and cons comparison. The only pro I can give to the WASR is still the fact that it is technically cheaper. So it is less money. And of course, it is standard parts for what it's worth. And that's about it. Of course, standard parts carries over to the Polish. And as I've already said, I think the additional funds are worth it for either of these. If you're going to do that, I would just go ahead and fork up another couple of bucks, save up another month, do that. Again, both take standard mags, though, so you don't have to worry about weird mag issues, at least. So that comes down to these. And here I cannot really help you. Pro, lightweight. Pro, definitely durable. Feels like a tank. I've heard a lot of people call these a tank. It feels like a solid gun. So which is more important? Lightweight, maneuverability, packing it around, or durability? I'll also say that the WBPs have the fixed stock. You can put a side folder like this on it, but they don't offer a WBP underfolder. And there are none immediately on the horizon. So if you want an underfolder, Zastava is the better way to go. This is a solid stock too. Then again, underfolders are kind of a mixed bag. Accuracy-wise, I'm going to say they're about the same. Yes, the Zastava is a slightly heavier barrel, but in practical terms, usually with 760x39, your limiting factor when it comes to accuracy, your ammo. Most steel-cased X39 is not really loaded to what you'd call match standards. Con. Takes its own parts. Not as big of an issue as it once was, but it does take some proprietary parts, so you might have some issues like with scope mounting, handguards, what have you. Con. Technically, this is not from a Comblock war factory, military factory. Even though it's a Polish import, even though I feel like the quality is very high, some people out there do not like the WBP for being from what is technically a commercial vendor manufacturer. Again, even though certain parts like the barrel are from a military factory and they're following what you could think of as the TDP. So, again, trying to be fair. Over the last couple of years, both the Zastava and the WBP have improved things. For the Zastava, we got a bayonet lug and a chrome line bore. For the WBP, mostly we just tightened up QC, better paint finish, cosmetics, things like that. Also offering more options. Again, we have the kind of barrel style mount, we have the side mount, or we have a slick side. We have non-chrome barrel on an economy option, what have you. So both have gotten better. Meanwhile, the WASR, the best you can say is it stayed the same, but I would argue it's just not quite as nice as it once was. I mean, heck, a lot of them aren't even coming to cleaning rods right now. Again, not that it's absolute rubbish. I still think it's a nicer gun than the Pioneer overall, although I would actually recommend the Pioneer for the money. I know it's confusing. But I feel like one of them is on the ascendant, mainly the Zastava. And I feel like the WASR is starting to really show its age. And not just the gun itself or Romania, but the importer. Century Arms seems like they've lost their way and they're just kind of blundering through. Whereas WBP and Zastava seem to know what they're doing and they have plans for the future and things that they announce come to fruition. They're more exciting. They have more going on. Century Arms, half the stuff that they had is gone. Even the few things that they think about bringing out, like the WASR10, kind of don't really materialize in any numbers. It just kind of feels like yesterday's news. Whereas either of these kind of felt like the modern era. And I couldn't tell you which one, Zastava or WBP, I like more. It really is. Just get both. Even if you have to wait a year in between, if you like AKs, each has its pros and cons, and both will be good shooters, both will hold up, and both will keep value quite well. I'm happy that the Zastavas have kind of left their early reputation and maybe early teething things behind, and I'm happy that WBP has earned its name in the U.S. market, because when it came on the scene about a decade ago, no one knew who the hell they were. And I think some that are still picking up WASRs, it is just the inertia of the name, which is kind of funny, because if you go back 15 years, then the WASR had a negative thing, and then it earned its name up. I think its high water mark was somewhere between, 2013 and maybe 2016, 2018. Hard to say, different guns. Again, these come in huge numbers. I would definitely say the WBPs are imported in the smallest numbers. And then the Zastava, and then the WASR. So, hope that helps. Again, it's up to you which you value more. Lightweight or durability, strict, complete parts commonality, or maybe you don't mind proprietary parts. Some people do, some people don't. Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of very interested in what your pick is. With that, appreciate you hanging out here on the new channel. Hope everyone's having a good week. Catch you very soon next time.